Welcome to the podcast. We have all been the S word. I'm talking about stuck. You feel it, you know it. Most of the time, we attempt to ignore it, but then one day it hits you and you're like, oh crap, I'm at a crossroads. I'm stuck. If you're feeling this now, this episode is all about taking the first courage step forward and actually starting to create some movement in what it has probably felt like a stalemate. So, I am going to be releasing the next 5 solo episodes to walk you through exactly, practically, how to never be stuck again because too many capable, wonderful people are missing out on lives that could be so much more joyful and connected and just awake, like lives they actually want to be living. For me, I have recognized that anytime I've felt this stuck feeling in my life, that there was this 5 step process, these 5 courage moves that changed my life and created that forward momentum that I was desperate for. Courage changes everything. And so I want to walk you through in depth today where we tend to get stuck. So, for instance, you can think about like your career or maybe in your relationships. I want to talk about why we end up getting stuck. So, think about routines or even convenience. That's a big one too. And then we're going to talk about how to take the first step and how that's going to actually generate the forward momentum and the movement to get out of this stuck phase for yourself. Now, before we dive in, I just want to commend you for finding this episode and hitting play because it means that there's already something inside you that knows that you are ready to stop spiraling in the insanity that you've been in and to, like, you're ready to take a courage move. And you've done so already by coming this far. So, my goal is just to make sure that over the course of this episode and the next 5, that you really start to see that there is a light and that there is a way out of this stuckness, and that you are, by being here, you are heading into alignment and you're doing so with intention. So, let's get into it. You know the feeling because you have been in a stuck phase before. And sometimes this feels internally like you're unmotivated or you're disconnected or you're restless or maybe even a little numb. But on the outside, for most of us, you're probably still showing up. You're probably still going through the motions because you're responsible, you're reliable, you're capable. So on the outside, everything kind of looks fine. But internally, you know that something is off and that you are unhappy. And maybe you can't even quite explain it yet. I know that's how I felt, but you can feel it. I once said it like this: it's like you're living a life that you have built, but you're not fully inside of it anymore. And perhaps that really resonates, maybe, with where you're at too right now. Where this can get really interesting is where everything feels like it should be working because you kind of run through this checkbox in this checklist in your head. Like, you know you're a good person, you show up for things, you work hard, you know you're capable. And so the fact that something still feels off, I mean, you question yourself. You're like, am I broken? Am I losing it? Like, what's going on? And I can tell you, you're not broken. You're just misaligned. Matthew McConaughey's story, it reminds me a lot of this. So we've been reading his poems and prayers book, and it's just so good. For him, he tells a story that he was everywhere. He was all over the romantic comedy scene, like with blockbuster hits and one script just rolling in after another, begging for him to take it. On the outside, everything was fine. Nothing was like visibly broken, but he knew deeply that something was misaligned. And this can happen anywhere for any of us, in your career, in your relationships, in your identity, in your finances, in your faith, you can be stuck in a life that you worked really hard to actually build. And sometimes we think that stuck, like feeling stuck, is a sign of failure. So I just want to offer up a different perspective that feeling stuck is actually your purest indicator from the inside out that you have outgrown a version of yourself. And now you are being invited into what's next. So, how did you get here? Well, I'm going to tell you, you're not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because you've adapted so well and you just settled in. Somewhere in your life, you jumped on the autopilot train. You probably chose what made sense. Maybe you had to do it. Maybe it was the most convenient thing or the most comfortable option or the thing that you were just really, really good at. Or maybe it was the option that you were less fearful of than the alternative. Or maybe it was the thing that you thought you were supposed to do because that's what success looked like. And so you just did it. And now you've been staying so busy, consuming and listening and scrolling and learning and just telling yourself that you're working through it. But the truth is that you have been filling every single quiet moment so that you don't actually have to sit with this feeling, this invitation from the inside out. So you've become this pro at basically just pushing this feeling aside and starting to convince yourself that you're going to address it later, but later is never coming and it's never going to get prioritized. And I do believe that that's the part we don't talk about enough. It's the hidden cost of staying stuck. You see, stuck isn't neutral. It costs you. It costs you your joy, it costs you your presence, it costs you your connection, it costs your self-trust, and it slowly replaces like feeling alive with just this, it's fine, not great, not bad, it's fine kind of life. And over time, fine, it just becomes our new normal. Think about the conversations you've had in the last week and how many times you've asked someone like how they were doing or what's new, and they kind of just shrug their shoulders like, "Nah, same old. Not good, not bad. Yeah, it's fine." This also reminds me of an example with Ariana Huffington. So she's the co-founder of the Huffington Post and Thrive Global. Her story, it perfectly captures what we're talking about, how things were fine on the outside. So she was at the top of her game. She's like building this massive company. She's running nonstop. She's winning on every external measure. And then, let's see if you can relate to this. One day her body just made this decision that it couldn't do it anymore. She collapsed from exhaustion. She ended up hitting her head and she broke her cheekbone. And as you could imagine, for someone like that, that didn't just become a productivity issue, right? That was a total life interruption because having to slow down, having to actually be still, that is not something that she would have chosen at that point in her life. Her body made that decision for her. And then what followed was the question that most people avoid, which is like, whoa, what is this actually costing me? And that was the moment for her. So here's where we kind of shift. The first courage move to never being stuck again, or to at least getting unstuck, okay, is the courage to get still. I know I used to think that stillness is laziness or stillness is doing nothing. And quite frankly, there are too many things on the top of my to-do list for me to have the luxury to just sit down and be still. Saying it out loud is just, it hurts. It hurts because it's so not true. So hear me loud and clear on this one, that stillness is not doing nothing. It's not laziness and it's not another chore on the to-do list. Stillness is the moment that you stop avoiding and outrunning what you already know. You cannot move clearly if you refuse to pause long enough to see where you really are. So if we go back to the Matthew McConaughey example for a second, instead of grabbing the next role, instead of staying busy, instead of riding this momentum of rom-coms that was just hitting him, he decided to stop. No new movies, no chasing opportunities, and he got really, really still. For almost 2 years, actually. He didn't make a movie. He stepped completely away. He talks about how there was no guarantee if it would actually work. There was no logical next step. His managers didn't understand what was going on. There was just this empty space. And it gave him time to really sit with the questions that people often avoid. And so he started asking himself, like, what do I really want to do? What would feel aligned? Like, what is next for me? Versus just going with the autopilot flow and taking the next thing that came just because it was convenient or the comfortable option. And when he came back, he did not come back the same. He totally chose differently. He chose courageously, and everything changed because that is what stillness does. It doesn't slow down your life. It actually redirects it from an aligned place. We could all use more of that. Getting still, it feels so hard because it can be extremely uncomfortable. It removes the noise. It takes away the distractions. And then all of a sudden, you're just left with what's actually there, which is often the truth, which is often a level of dissatisfaction, which is often actually looking at the desire and knowing you don't have it. It's that misalignment. And that's the part that we don't like to admit. We know that if we really give space for it, if we really see it, that it might then demand a change in our life. Stillness is courageous because it makes truth harder to avoid. You can't avoid that kind of alignment once you see it. I love how Oprah Winfrey, she's also another one who talks about this, how important it is that before making any major decisions, she refuses to rush through it. She steps away, she journals, she sits, and it's not because she's like afraid to make a quick decision, but it's because she refuses to make a decision from noise. So she gets really quiet and she just starts asking and sitting with, what is this trying to show me? And then she trusts what she hears, not after the world validates it, but before. So I want to make this real because I think that we like to make getting still sound really overcomplicated for some reason. So, getting still, it does not have to be like this big retreat away in the mountains or like some wild spiritual yoga practice for 24 hours a day. Like stillness, it can look like taking a walk without a podcast or without playing music. Sitting in silence for just 10 minutes. I had a mentor recently who just told me that that was one of the first things that she was mentored on, and how she remembers so vividly the 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes that she really sat by herself and how uncomfortable and awkward it was. But that she got still. Another way that you could get still is just by journaling honestly, like letting your thoughts unfiltered just pour out onto a page. Um, if you do that, whether you're writing or whether you're just thinking about it, it's just about asking yourself what feels off, or just about noticing what drains you and just like paying attention to what keeps coming up so you can eventually let it go. Stillness isn't about trying to escape the life you have. It's about finally tuning in and listening to the life that you've built from the inside out and getting really honest with yourself. So I want to give you just a few questions that you can sit with. Like I mentioned, it's not about solving, okay? This is just to help you start to notice and to encourage you to get really still for these answers, because I know this is the kind of stuff that can change your life. If it helps, you can even you pause along with me. Like you could take a deep breath, and between each of these, just pause the episode so that you can actually sit with yourself for even a minute on each question and just jot down the first things that come to mind, or just notice the first things. Normally, something's going to swell up. Okay, 3 questions that you can sit with. The first one: where am I at right now emotionally? And you're just going to pick 1 or 2 words that describe how you're feeling in your life right now. Where am I at emotionally? Okay, second question: what area of my life do I feel off in right now? It's probably one of those areas that we talked about earlier. So, career, relationships, identity, purpose, faith, finances. Like, what specific area of my life do I feel off right now? And then the third question is, what have I been too busy to admit about this area of my life, this area that feels off? What have I been too busy to notice? This is probably going to be your indicator of exactly where you have outgrown something specific. It's going to feel uncomfortable, most likely. And also, you will look back and you will realize what a moment of clarity you just had. So, that third question is really, in this area, what have I been too busy to admit that's off? Okay, here's what I want you to do after this episode. I feel like I'm drowned in this along, but I'm in it. I love it. All right. So I'm being thoughtful with this one. Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to just take 10 minutes today. 10 minutes. I know it sounds so crazy that it could really have this much and make this much of a difference of your life, but I will tell you, 10 minutes, no distractions, no fun, no fun, no phone, no noise, nothing. Just 10 minutes, and notice how awkward it feels. Notice how unfamiliar it feels. Notice how uncomfortable it feels. And if your brain starts to drift off to, oh my goodness, I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to do this, I want you to just notice it. Again, you're not judging it. You're not fixing, you're just noticing, hey, that's a to-do list item. Come back to this moment. And maybe I'll just focus on a deep breath. Where am I at? Where am I at emotionally? Where am I at? Where am I at? Right? Okay. And if you can, you'll do yourself even a bigger favor if you actually write it down. So don't try to fix it. Don't try to solve it. Don't overthink it. Don't judge yourself don't judge yourself even for crying too. Or if you get angry, that's an emotion too. Or like if you get completely triggered by just sitting there by yourself and something comes up for you and it gets you good, just let it, just see it. Because having the courage to get still is where you gain your first level of awareness about what's actually wrong. And there may be pieces of you that immediately want to ignore it the second you see it. It's totally normal. And I just want you to know that seeing it, it's not the same as having to admit it. So that's where we're going next week. Because the second courage move is all about the courage to tell the truth. And that one, we're going to go deeper. So make sure you tune in, okay? If this episode resonated with you, if you've been feeling stuck in your life and you're just ready to move forward, but you don't have a clear path forward yet, I want to invite you into something. So, I'm going to be hosting a live workshop. It'll be the first week of May. We're dialing in some details, but it's going to be the 5 courage moves you need to get your life unstuck. So, this is where we're going to take what has been keeping you stuck and we're going to actually start making clear, aligned next steps. So, you're not just thinking about it, you're not just talking about it, but you're actually moving. So, if you're ready for that, I would love to see you in that workshop. Save your spot with the link that's going to be in the show notes. And then outside of that, just remember that feeling stuck is a sign that you are ready for growth. Getting still is going to give you the awareness that you need to make your first courage move. And courage changes everything. I'll see you next week. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. It means the world to me that you're here to ride in the struggle bus with me and that you're willing to consider different perspectives, tools, and techniques that just might provide a little bit of relief and get you one step closer to the abundance that is available and waiting for us all. I hope you take a moment to grant yourself some grace where you've been denying it, some love where you didn't realize maybe it was right in front of you, and some faith where you thought all was lost. If this episode had an impact on you, would you please share a comment with a review? I'd love to hear what landed for you, and it helps us get the word out to our fellow struggle bus riders. So please review what was impactful for you. Just know these episodes are a pure labor of love in a space where I'm growing alongside you. I'm evolving every day, and I look forward to all the ways and the things and the perspectives and opinions and choices that will change over the course of time in my own life, day to day. Until next time, just know that you are loved, you are divinely cared for, and in the struggle, the journey of this life really is beautiful. I'm glad that we're in it together. Cheers.